So let's get to the issue with creative. So Fightful had a report that whenever they reached out to talent got back to them and said, "Yeah, we're really excited about this AMC the TV deal," but a lot of them said, "But the creative is not good." And I said some stuff in public, and I got reaction from some people in the company, and they're agreeing with me. They're not being quiet about this. They're really not. They're telling a lot of people that they're not happy with the creative. People seem to be happy with Tommy Dreamer's head of talent relations. A lot of people like Tommy Dreamer. I've been tough on Tommy, and I've blamed everything on Tommy. I think he's an easy guy to blame stuff on. He can be a bit of a punching bag. I don't know how much at fault the creative issues in the company are for I don't know how much that lays on his lap. But the way people talk about him makes me think that it's not really like a Tommy Dreamer issue. But we've seen people publicly defend Tommy today, and nobody's publicly defending Delirious. If you guys want to point a finger at somebody. Now, I never thought I'd be on this podcast like defending Tommy Dreamer, but that's just my read on the situation. I could be wrong. But the reaction that I've gotten from some of the talent and some of the staff is that they're not happy with the creative direction of this company. And I completely agree with them, and I've been really tough on them. I've been, downright mean, to be honest with you, because I see them have this opportunity, and I get the feeling they're going to blow it. And I'm trying to get the narrative out there, and I want everybody to be on the same page that the TV show Impact that aired in 2025 on Access TV, it cannot be the same level that airs on AMC. Talking like creatively and production wise, it cannot be the same. If it is the same, if they don't improve, it's going to flop. More eyes and more scrutiny on this company could be a bad thing, because they've been hiding on Access TV for years. These WWE fans that have been propping them up and proclaiming them as the number 2 company and all this and that, and then that have actually been buying tickets to the shows and been going to the shows, don't actually watch the TV show. So they don't know how bad the creative has been. Now, a lot of people will come to this podcast, and their entire identity is based around being positive TNA fans, and I get that, and that's their online gimmick, and I respect it. But I think you're fooling yourselves if you think that this is a good television show, and that you're fooling yourselves that the reason why that TNA was able to get this deal with AMC is because of the quality of the creative. And in fact, they're getting this deal with AMC in spite of the quality of the creative. They got the deal with AMC, and Carlos Silva said it several times in several interviews, because of the relationship with WWE. Full stop. Right. And he very much credits them, and he's smart to do that, because I don't think this guy Carlos is a liar. Other than ticket sales. I didn't, and he wasn't the one that came out and announced the ticket sales. I don't think this guy, if you ask him an honest question, he'll give you an honest answer. That's my just read on the guy. And that is my impression. And he's been giving all the credit to WWE. Now, he said that he negotiated on behalf of TNA and CAA, the talent agency, they led the negotiations with the TV companies. And that WWE just being their partner opened up a lot of doors for them. And while the WWE didn't go and negotiate on their behalf, the fact of the matter is that WWE becoming their partner opened up these bigger venues for them, and opened up the opportunity for them to be able to sell all the tickets that they've been selling. And it has created this illusion that this company is big time and on fire, when in fact nobody was watching the television show, and they couldn't sit there and poke holes in all of the creative. Right, with all the start and stops pushes for all the different people, the bland paint by numbers booking, and the repeating of all the angles that they've been repeating, like the TNA Women's Knockouts Tag Team Championships. They've recycled the same story for 4 years in a row. It's been the same exact story. Team gets formed, team wins title. New team gets formed, that team wins title. Old team breaks up, new team enters the picture. It has been the same recycled storyline for 4 years, and they've been rotating the same 2 or 3 tag teams, right? And it has been similar with a lot of the men until the Hardys got there, the men's tag team division too, with some of the turns and like the the factions and stuff that they've been doing. Like, the system is almost a carbon copy of Death Before Dishonor or whatever it was called. Honor No More. It was kind of a similar thing, except for those guys all came in from Ring of Honor and they, but they had kind of a similar vibe. And that didn't last very long, and then eventually Eddie Edwards started a new faction. It was the System, and I happen to enjoy the System because I'm a fan of Eddie and Moose and Brian Myers. Not so much Fandango, but I thought Eddie and Brian Myers were a really good tag team. Then you fast forward to the Mike Santana angle, and that angle is a carbon copy of the Josh Alexander angle from 3 years ago. It's the same damn thing. You got Eric Young doing this gimmick where he's talking about a cleanse coming, and he was with Violent by Design for years with him and Joe Doring and Cody Deaner, and then he ends up going to WWE, and they essentially stabbed him and killed him in prison. And he goes to WWE, and then he comes back as a babyface. The babyface doesn't work out. And so now it looks like he's trying to restart Violent by Design, but he's been doing the same backstage vignettes in September. He's got random people in the crowd and random people backstage with these masks on, and nobody knows what the fuck is going on. I get the feeling it's just going to end one day and it's never going to go anywhere. And I feel pretty confident in that, and I hope I'm wrong. I feel pretty confident in that because I've seen this company do starts and stops with things going nowhere. You guys remember the Aztec Warriors? They built up this new luchador tag team with Laredo Kid and Octagon Jr. They were in for like 2 tapings. And then like they lost both the talents. Jake Something has been back and forth heel several times, and he recently turned heel again. He joined up with Frankie Kazarian. Frankie convinced him to turn heel. He turned heel, helped Frankie win a match, and they haven't been seen together on screen since. But yet Jake is still a heel with no direction. I can go on and on. Like the amount of failed storylines that they've had and start and stop storylines where they just pick something up and they push somebody for a couple weeks and they just forget about it. That's been ridiculous. And then you can go in with the NXT partnership. The NXT partnership has, as far as creatively, has been a flop. It's been a success at the box office, and now 2 things can be true at the same time. WWE fans have been told it's okay to support TNA, so they've been showing up. But creatively, it's been a flop. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. Kalani Jordan becoming the Knockouts champion and then representing TNA in that fucking Showdown show was one of the dumbest goddamn things I've ever seen in my life. And it was at that point where I personally knew that TNA wrestlers were fed up with the creative direction of the company. They got these NXT kids coming in and taking up a lot of the TV time, having to put them over, and they're not half as good as they are. And they, they're these pampered kids coming in, and I don't blame the NXT kids. Like they're just, they're being told to go there. They're just doing their job of taking a booking. And but they're coming in and they're shining over the TNA talent. Now, the NXT stars have lost a lot, but then you look at like Trick Williams was the champion for a while, and I'm sure a lot of people liked him, and I thought he did a pretty decent job. Couldn't made the talent there feel good, and it makes it seem like nobody on the roster was good enough to be champion, so they had to bring in somebody from the outside. So it's like, what does it say about your roster? And then they did it with JC Jane, and then they turned around and did the same thing with Kalani Jordan because of the whole Ash thing, and they couldn't figure out what they were doing. And I could just go on and on and on. The TV show that we saw tonight cannot be the same TV show that we see in AMC. Just low energy, nothing interesting. For a TV show that calls itself total nonstop action, there was hardly any action. It was very slow, methodical, disinterested fans sitting in the audience who couldn't be bothered to enjoy the show. And I'm not blaming the fans. I was like, you guys didn't give them something good enough, right? Those fans, if there were an NXT show, they'd be all over the place. They'd be cheering their asses off. But at TNA, you're not doing a good enough job, guys. And it comes down to the creative, and it comes down to the production. So tonight we had on the show, and I'm going to get into the play-by-play of the show, but I just want to hit a couple more talking points. But tonight we had this great video package with In the Air Tonight, a cover version of it, like more of a rock with like some chick singing. It was really, really good. And that was how they opened the show. And then they immediately kicked it to a hometown man match. It's like, the fuck are we doing? Like, I'm not like a hometown man hater, okay? I'm not. But you start the show off hot, and then you go to some fucking goof, right? Now, undercard goofs have been in wrestling forever, and I think the hometown man, as far as being an undercard goof, a comedy guy, he plays his role pretty well, Cody Deaner. He's a versatile performer, so got to give the guy credit. But that's the first thing you see. That's the first match we're seeing, and we're seeing he's in a match with Bad Body Brooks Jensen, right? Just a very wholly uninteresting wrestler from NXT who is very likely going to get cut one day. And that's what we see. Like, that's the first fucking match after we announced this big TV deal. You know, people are like, oh man, TNA's cooking, right? They got something big. And maybe I'm going to turn on TNA on Access tonight for the first time in a long time, see what they got cooking. And then you turn it on and it's fucking hometown man and Brooks Jensen. It's like, nobody's interested. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see that. It's pretty fucking wild. I'm gonna say it again because I think Carlos Silva needs to hear this. I think Tommy Dreamer needs to hear this, and Delirious needs to hear this. Tommy and Delirious are safe. They're not going anywhere. They're not getting fired. So I'm done calling for their jobs. And I think people take that personally. I last year, the 49ers defensive coordinator, I called for him to get fired. Nobody got mad at me, but I called for the fucking creative team, the offensive coordinator for TNA to get fired. Now I'm a dick, right? Like so okay. But I'm going to say this again. The TV show and the product that they put on in 2025 cannot continue in its current form. If it does, this show is going to be a major flop. And Anthem's going to pull the fucking plug on this thing because they're not going back to Access, and Anthem's not buying another channel. So if this AMC thing doesn't work, they're fucking done. And the only reason it's not going to work is because they decided to keep the TV show as is right now because they're sniffing their own farts. They were listening to the toxic positivity accounts instead of the real motherfuckers like myself and BQ that watch the show and Gerard that watch the show and will tell you when things are not going well. And that's going to be their undoing. That's what's going to kill it. So they need to fucking shape up. They need some new creative minds. They need to fucking hire John Muse, you goddamn idiots. He's right fucking there. And he knows what he's doing. They need to bring in some young creative minds from around pro wrestling or even from fucking AMC. Like, I don't know, dude. They got to do something because the show stinks right now. The quarter 4 TNA has been the worst I've ever seen. They took a fucking month off after Bound for Glory. Now we did just find out why. And I knew why, but I didn't have the evidence to back it up. Now Sean Rossap has come out with the report that the reason why they took a month off after Bound for Glory wasn't because they're preparing for this TV deal. It's because they ran over budget. Like, it was for budgetary reasons. So for all of you that said, oh, no, TNA is just giving their talent time off, you guys are fucking morons. If you believe that. Butt-sniffing morons is what you are. But so that's where they're at. Look, I started with good news, then I became a dick again. That's just me.